feel bad for it because it's competing against two other books that are just so good in this chapter.
So don't say anything about it. I feel like I already maybe read a spoiler in your notes, but the book club
Isaac,
book is
I'm
The Emperor's
sorry.
Blades.
My con, I think my con is
Let's go beyond the first page.
Welcome back, Second Pagers. This is Beyond the First Page podcast with siblings Phoebe, Phil, and Isaac. I'm Phoebe.
I'm Phil.
I'm Isaac.
And this is Club Meeting 66. It's a Chapter 4 overview. And if you are new here or if you haven't listened in a while, for 2026, we changed the layout of the podcast a little bit. So we are doing chapters, which are basically segments that have a theme. And so for Chapter 4, the theme is fantasy and more specifically the academy or the school trope. And Phil, would you just quickly explain for maybe people who aren't as into fantasy what that is?
Yeah, so the academy trope is really just like a lot of young wizards or people in fantasy will need training. And so they'll go to this training where they do their stuff. But that is like the very definition of the trope. What's like what you see in the trope, and at least what I see, I'm sort of making this up as I go, but usually you see a really strong friend group. And the friend group and the people that are surrounding either the main characters or the main character themselves are extremely important and around the same age as the main character. Also, and we see this in all three of the ones that we picked. Also, you see tests or like trials, which are awesome. In Bloodsong, they have, I think, like 6 of them before they can graduate. And then in Emperor's Blades, the biggest one is definitely Paul's Trial, which is freaking sick. Like, such a crazy idea. Mm-hmm. I will say that there's no real tests besides like them getting stuck in the magical world in the Raven Boys, but that one is a little bit off, off the main trope. And then I think the other thing that you see a lot is teachers,
like mentors,
and mentors being very important and having their own sort of lasting impact on the characters or being like part of the plot point. So I do think all of those you see in the 3 that we picked, and I just like am a sucker for all 3 of those. So this is probably one of my favorite fantasy tropes. I don't know if I missed any.
I would say the only other one that I can think of that comes up a lot is they're usually some sort of like in Harry Potter, for instance, he's the chosen one, or in Bloodsong, his dad was the general of the realm. So he kind of was this like not underdog, but people didn't like him because they thought that he thought he was better than them. So there's usually this sort of like animosity, like they're the leader of their group or something like that. The main character is. And then I think the love interest, which is true for, I think, any fantasy, which we've talked about on the podcast before, but usually there is some sort of like school love interest as well, which I think all 3 of these do have.
Yeah, I think the last one is the like antagonist. The peer antagonist as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. All very
the academy trope. You know, talking about that, I think that Raven Boys I'm glad we included it in here because it is just so different, and it almost like doesn't fit the school trope. Like they're at an academy, but that is not really like the main part of it. But I think as like that sort of stepping stone into fantasy for people, it will be like a really nice ease into it.
Yeah.
And I think it does have some of the tropes as well.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
But I would say it's like more
you,
fringe,
it's not
on the fringe
like textbook
of the trope. Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the 3 books that we picked for this chapter, they're all part of a series, but they have their first book where the main characters are in training at some sort of academy or school. And so I will say right off the bat, I'm very excited for this chapter. I think last chapter, while I think it was very meaningful and fun and something different for the podcast, it definitely challenged us a bit. And I think the awesome thing about reading is you can be challenged one day with one book and then have a completely different experience where you're immersed in a very fun, cool world in the next book that you read. And so that was definitely the case for these 3 books that we read. We read Blood Song by Anthony Ryan, Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater, and Chronicle of the Unhewn Throne series by Brian Stavely, and more specifically, the first one, which was The Emperor's Blade. And this episode is really to help us give you guys a good roadmap for the chapter. So the idea would be listen to the overview episode. We'll tell you the pros and cons of each of the books that we read. And if you don't have time to read, all 3, maybe just read the one from the chapter that you think appeals to you the most. There won't be any spoilers in this episode. We do spoil in the regular podcast episodes. But this is a good roadmap for you listeners to see what books you should read from the chapter. And so I'll get us started with Raven Boys. It is about Blue, who has befriended some local boys from the academy, hence the academy trope. And they are hunting for a power on these things called ley lines, which are essentially magical pockets in the world that amplify power, and they are trying to find this old Welsh king who's died, who can grant wishes essentially, or can grant power to the people who find him. So this one of the boys especially is on this quest, and Blue is kind of integral to that because she amplifies the power of supernatural things. And so this book I would describe as, well, it is obviously fantasy. The fantasy is very heavy in the supernatural area. So that's the summary. I think the pro for me was Blue is a character that could have been very annoying because she was trying to be so different, but she acknowledges her, like the narrator acknowledges that she is trying to be different on purpose, and that's kind of her thing. And so I think she's a very likable character. And kind of all the characters are like that. And I think the way that the story is narrated really lets you enjoy the story more. I think the con for me was I think this book was YA, and I don't necessarily think it had to be. I think it could have been maybe a bit more interesting if it wasn't YA. I don't think that's a con. That's a disclaimer for our audience. What did you guys think?
Yeah, no, I think I think this one is definitely the most different out of what you would think of when you think of the Academy trope in fantasy. As someone who has read the series, I think that this book becomes not YA.
Okay.
Maybe it's still listed as YA, but takes very non-YA themes and becomes a little bit more serious. I think that this one, my biggest question, and it's sort of what you were saying, Phoebe, as well. In general, these 3 books are like, besides maybe Tim Gerald Reynolds and the guy who narrates it, Stephen Fry, like top 3 narrators on Audible book, audiobook. Yeah, like amazing. This guy does Stephen King's Holly Gurney series as well. And I don't know if I would have liked if I would have thought this was good writing, or I don't even know, because of the way that he narrates it and makes Blue such a likable character. Like, if it was someone else narrating, I don't know how I would feel about this book, but it is him, and that is like very
if
cool.
It was the woman that had narrated the what was the one about the asylum?
Yes, Night Watch. If it was Night Watchman,
there was a potential that she would have been, because that's like the kind of area it is this like southern If it would have,
Right.
that is like such a good take, Phil. Wow.
Yeah.
I
I
feel
was
the exact opposite, but
wow. You don't like this narrator.
no.
Wow.
Maybe this is just something that I think I personally need to work on a little bit. That Southern thing.
I feel like he took it out of it.
To no end.
He took it out of it, though.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Oh, whenever Adam's character talked, I was like,
Well,
and Blue's character.
so it wasn't just
But
women.
they were
even
rural
actually
Virginia.
all of them.
Gamzee was annoying.
The when like pretending to be that upper class, Southern thing drawl or whatever irked me. The like when they slipped out of it irked me. I don't like the Southern twang. I think.
Yeah, it's hard for you.
I thought he did it very well.
I think that you're talking about like Appalachia almost. I think you wouldn't mind like someone who's truly from the South. Maybe I'm just putting words in your mouth.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is that was Virginia. I don't know.
Yeah.
How much
Virginia's tough because
South
Virginia is Appalachia and the
Yeah.
South.
So was that your negative, Isaac?
I mean, I don't think he did I think he did a good job reading it. I just like personally don't like that accent. That was not my negative. I didn't dislike it because of that. I didn't like love it because of that. It's just sort of what I was saying. My positive was that I think if for somebody who is maybe on the fence about fantasy, like I would say, try this one out because it is like the real world. There's just like elements of magic or whatever thrown in there. I didn't like really any of the characters was my con.
Okay.
Okay. They just all the characters very unrelatable.
Yeah.
And I think we'll talk about it more in the book, but
yeah, that's a good point though. If you are hesitant about fantasy, this is a good way to dip your toe in for sure.
It is a very interesting take on magical realism, I think, because most magical realism is like very Isabel Allende or Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Like it's all written sort of the same way. This is like to a T magical realism, but not the same style at all.
It's very
intentional. I think that's a great point, Isaac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also will say, I think this book will, I feel bad for it because it's competing against two other books that are just so good in this chapter. And so I had actually not read Bloodsong and I absolutely loved it. And I can't even decide between that and The Emperor's Blades, which one I liked better. But Isaac, will you tell us about Bloodsong?
Yeah, so Bloodsong is the first book in the Raven Shadow trilogy. The main character is Valen Alsoran, and he is part of the Sixth Order, which is like the warrior group for the realm that he's in. He gets sent there as a kid by his dad while he's in the school, so that is the kind of trope, checks the trope box for us, his training in the Sixth Order. He uncovers a plot that he believes people are out to actually kill him. And throughout his training and his young warrior years, he becomes like a renowned warrior for the realm and eventually ends up leading an army against the Alperian Empire. And at the end of the book has to have like a solo duel for his life. So I don't want to say too much to give it away, but that's the broad strokes of it.
Yeah, great summary. I thought that literally the only bad thing, I'll just start with that because I think the rest will probably be pros for everybody else. The names of places and people were very challenging for me to follow in this book. I think partially it's due to listening. I think if you see the names written down, you'd be fine. But I was pretty confused throughout the book, and now I'm reading the second book and I'm still confused on like some of the characters, or not confused, but I'm like, wait, who is that again? Oh yeah, okay. And same with the places. I think the world is complex enough and has like more challenging enough names that it was at times hard for me to follow. That being said, like not really. I obviously understood the whole thing. So that was truly the only con for me.
Yeah, I think so. This one I was trying. So this is also like one of my favorite trilogy. Like I recommend this to everybody. So again, my cons are going to be very like
You're
I'm
really
thinking a
digging
lot
here.
about
Yeah.
this. Yeah, but insofar as like actual looking and evaluating literature, Balin Alsorin has maybe no character flaws. He is like such a great warrior. He's very kind, like very morally devoted, like, but still does what he has to do to a point. Like, he's so likable. And it's very hard to find anything that you could be like, he should have done this in this situation that he doesn't actually do, which is like awesome in a sense that I like really like him, but like also could be a more nuanced main character. Again, that's just like I wouldn't even thought of that
And
unless someone
I
was
feel
like,
like I could argue
poke
that.
me with
That's
a bear
really a
and tell
dig, and
me-
I think I can think of some
Yeah,
things
me
that
too. But
go against
I
that.
see what you're
Okay.
saying, but I think it'd be
Yeah.
an interesting conversation to bring up in the main episode because
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think
We should
could.
make note of that to
Mhm.
talk about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I think that's a pretty good, like, just off the cuff to try to be like, okay, let's
think of it.
something wrong. But the
Yes.
like to compare this to the first one, again, Phoebe, I think you are right. Like I maybe would have liked Raven Boys more if I wasn't reading it
with these other
compared
two.
to these other
Yeah.
two. But like you want to be Valen. You're
For
like,
sure.
oh, I want to be him. I can see myself as him, as this like hero in a story.
Mhm.
Whereas like the characters in Raven Boys, I didn't want to be any of them, and I couldn't see myself as any of them.
It kind of, I can't put into words the feeling that this book gave me, but it made me happy to have brothers. I don't know why. I was like, I don't know that I would have been exposed to this book if I hadn't had brothers, but his actions with his brothers, I can tangentially relate to because I have brothers. And reading it with you guys, I feel like made me even like the book more. But I can't say exactly why this book made me feel that way, but like I think because what you guys are saying, like you two are like, I want to be this guy. And I can
Yeah,
know,
for
I
sure.
knew that you guys felt that way. You know, I understood the sisterly intuition was there, but this was just an awesome book. But go ahead, Phil, say your pros too.
Yeah, so in distinguishing between the other two, this book does a really good job of not getting stuck in the academy, like moving very quickly.
I
and
wrote down the
like,
same exact thing.
yeah, just like really
Because the whole first book could have
not
been
so
just
quickly
the
you're not lost.
academy.
The whole first book easily could have been the
Yeah.
academy. Yeah. And the fact that it not only does the whole academy, but then this book is told in a narrative of like telling from the past, but it catches up to the narrative, which the first time I read this, I was like, this maybe at the very, very end of the series will catch up to like the current inscribing.
Right.
But he does it like
the first
3/4 of the way into this book,
Yeah.
which is very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that the Chronicle of the Unhewn Throne also did some cool stuff with like past versus present narration. So let's talk about that, and more specifically, the first book of that, which is The Emperor's Blade. So Phil, would you tell us about that book, and we can do pros and cons for that?
Yeah, The Emperor's Blades is basically a tale of, again, 3 siblings, 1 girl and 2 boys. The girl, Adara, is the eldest, and she becomes a very important bureaucrat in the empire while her 2 brothers go away. And basically what happens in the book is that right in the beginning, the emperor gets murdered, and basically there's a conspiracy to sort of completely clean the line. The second sibling is Caden. He is actually the heir. He's training in a monastery. Both him and Valen have the academic trope, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He is a apprentice of a monk, but the monastery is an extremely harsh treatment where basically they want to completely separate yourself and your identity from your body and your mind. And so he is training in this very harsh environment, but then he's also trying to run from the people that are sort of trying to take over the empire. And then Dalen is a member of the Keptrol, which is a military order that basically is made special by the fact that they're squads that fly on these huge birds. And their whole sort of fighting tactics are around these birds. And again, someone's basically sent to kill him because they're trying to clean the line, and he's trying to escape. He's trying to save his brother, and then also sort of uncover this plot. And I tried to keep this pretty vague because it's a lot going on, but it comes together so nicely. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I would say top 5 like series of all time for me. And the pro is that there's no part of this am I not looking forward to. I turn the page of the new chapter, and whoever is leading the chapter, I'm looking forward to. And that is like insane with a book that has 3 different plot points, because not having even one weak one is wild.
Yeah.
And so that is my pro. My con, I think my con is, this again is hard. Maybe so I'm gonna go with names here. Actually, I think the names are difficult because I think they're hard. They're equally as hard as Blood Song.
I do feel like it's almost it's hard to even say that's a con because it is so widespread across all fantasy. If you're creating this whole new world, you have to make it believable that, like, with the names and the places that have to be different enough. My con was more so with the way that the trilogy ended, and again, like, I don't necessarily think it would be a con, so I won't say it here. I think the pro, there's so many things like you said. I think like even what is her Adara, yeah, Adara. I would say, like, you would think her storyline would be the weakest, but then she meets some really interesting people along the way, and she's very critical to the entire plot. So yeah, I totally agree with that assessment of not being let down by any point of view. I think I really like how certain times, and I don't know how prevalent this is in the first one, but throughout the series, a significant event will happen, and then Brian Stavely will tell it like in the past. So it'll be like as the event has already happened, and then it's being relayed from the character's perspective. I just think that's a very unique way of narrating and writing a story. And I've never noticed it in another novel. And I think it's not annoying. Like, Isaac, you say you get annoyed by the past, like kind of hinting at like what's going to happen. I think it's a way to create suspense with avoiding doing that and being like intentionally creating suspense to where you're annoying the reader.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, Phoebe, which is one of the things I like, there was like no wasted space in this.
Yes. That's a good way to say what I'm trying to say.
It like moved at like such a good pace, and there was no, like, there was an example of where Valen and his like crew go do something, but he didn't waste the time talking about it, and it wasn't this other fight. It was just like they did this thing and now they're on to the next thing, and you're like, I didn't miss anything, and now we're on to something cooler anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Which I like love. I noticed that specifically in that instance. It was like, thank God we didn't waste 4 pages on the intricacies of this, because while it probably would have been cool, there's so much more of that, and the plot just keeps moving now versus us being hung up on this minor incident that we all know, like, we're only 3/4 of the way through the book. We all know they're going to get out of this.
Right.
The book has to continue
going
on.
Yeah. I think to your point, Isaac, I think it'll be very interesting. We actually are going to be able to talk to Brian Stavely about this, and I'd be curious to know if that's an editing tactic or if that's his writing style. Like, if his editor came in and was like, "Hey, you need to create this, keep this pace going." Yeah. So it would be interesting to hear him, because we just don't know anything about that as far as like being an author goes. But totally agree with all of your guys' points. Yeah, and I think as far as just as a like a complete overview what you should read, Isaac, I really liked your point about the Raven Boys. If you're new to fantasy or maybe fantasy's not your thing, this is airing more towards the supernatural, magical realism, like Phil said. So I think it's a great starter book for you. And then I would say, as if you are a fantasy lover of any kind, the other two are must reads for you, and that's what I would say.
Like, I read the Unhewn Throne series in a weekend. It's like every book is 20 to 30 hours long.
You're just
and
like,
it was an
this is
absolute
great.
pleasure
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
And
This is one of the books that I actually will only read when I'm having a bed. Like I hold
Yeah.
it. I hold
So
it
you
so
can
that I
have
can
it.
like wait for
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
in the Raven Shadow, like I've read the Blood Song now 3 times.
Wow.
And as soon as I finish the Unhewn Throne, I'm gonna
Finish the
read the rest of the
series.
series again. Like I
Yeah.
never reread books, and I'm going
Yeah,
to
same.
go right back
Yeah.
and read this second and third one again because they're just so
This
good.
is like Harry Potter
Yeah.
tier. Yeah. I think we picked 3 really good books for this chapter. I'm very excited to discuss with you guys. Very excited to talk to Brian Stavely, who's the author of the Unhewn Throne trilogy. And we will be talking about that next time with him. So tune in for that. And this is your bi-weekly reminder to call someone that you love, tell them that you love them, tell them about a good book that you've recently read. Hopefully it's something from chapter 4 of the Beyond the First Page podcast. And until we talk again, stay classy, second pagers. We'll see you later.
Let's go
Bye, guys.
beyond the
See you
first
guys.
page.